All right, everybody, good morning, good morning. Can you all hear me okay? I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night, but I am not a pastor or a priest or a rabbi or whatever, so don't be scared. I notice all of you all sitting where I sit on Sunday, so there's just not a lot of people up here. Trust me, there's no pain in the day, but I wanted to say hello and thank you. What a great event. So nice to be back again this year. Amazing to see how this event's grown over the years. My name is Hunter McCluer. You would think of me as an Agile transformation architect or a coach. The word architect just means I'm old, and I've been through a lot of horror stories. And there's a lot of great ones at Eliasson, and I'm sure there's some amazing ones out here. And we're gonna run through, the whole idea of this conference is how to get better at Agile. The whole idea of this presentation was created by one of our customers a couple of years ago on how to sell or excite Agile inside your organization to your leadership levels, how to speak in their terms, basically. So yell out if you've got any questions. We're gonna do a quick run, just kind of a one-on-one on business agility to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page. We'll look at a fun way for you all to sell business agility. So the stuff we're gonna be doing today, there's no props, there's nothing to buy. You can do this afternoon back at your company. We'll talk about a fun way we kickstart business agility. Eliasson's about a $600 million company. Our Agile practice has been around about 10 years. We have 180 Agile engagements in flight today as of this morning across the US. And we're not one of the big ones. So if you're into Lean and Agile, we're very bullish about Lean and Agile. We think we've got a good 7 to 10 year run. With a lot of companies still trying to figure out how to become more lean and agile. So we definitely say you're in the right market, in the right industry. So how do we see business agility? A lot of business agility has taken us all over the place. We just opened up an office last week in Denver, Colorado. We of course are here and everywhere, but a lot of our clients tell us where to go or where to expand. So Eliasson's pretty much a national powerhouse. I joined in 2014. We had 11 offices and we did 180 million. Again, this year we're going to do about 600 million and we have 25 offices and 4 or 5 acquisitions in the works. So a lot of business agility, lean, DevOps, a lot of that stuff. A lot of customers are looking for help and information around that. This is kind of a neat progression. Honestly, until about 3 years ago, I didn't know this magazine existed. I'm a geek, I'm a wonk. I started out in 1979, anybody in here, on Card Punch. I was one of the few people in Florida with a ski jacket because in those days, IT worked in the data center room, right? We didn't have cubes or open space or anything that looked like Google. But a couple of years ago, a lot of our customers really started driving us saying, we're having phenomenal results in Agile and IT. We've got 500 teams in flight, but nobody upstairs knows what we're doing and they don't speak our language and they don't understand what we're trying to say. So we really started working on how to sell Agile upstairs, and it was neat for us. If you look at this progression, in 2016, Harvard Business Review started talking about what is this Agile thing? And there are more than these, but you can see the progression over the year up until last year where they're talking about planning doesn't have to be the enemy of Agile, which is kind of the thought from today. So probably about 20 or 30 events a year, I'm sitting in a B suite or a C suite area, and we're talking about how's Agile going and how do you want to look at creating agility and saving time, dollars, and resources across your company. That's a lot where this presentation evolves. Anybody in here doing Agile in an IT space in your organization? Probably a decent amount of you. How about what we think of as product agility, where your business teams are starting to send stuff in an Agile fashion, maybe user stories instead of requirement decks? Anybody got some of that going on? Good. How about Agile at scale? You've got SAFe or Scrum or Spotify or something going on, so you've got some good numbers going on. And then how about Agile up at the executive suite? Anybody have Agile where their executives are involved? Good. A couple of good hands here. So that's kind of our world that we're focused on today. What's going on in the C-suite today? A lot of them are getting their budgets kicked, I guess is a polite way to say it. We've got a lot of executives coming to us going, we're getting higher and higher and higher demands to be more efficient, to get more products and services in a lean and agile fashion, to cut costs, to increase throughput. All the things Agile's been saying since 2001. So this is kind of neat. Eliason's got a huge pharmaceutical and biopharm division. And a lot of the Agile stuff that we're doing in today is in those worlds. Highly, highly regulated. Highly, highly waterfall. You know, some of their test cycles are 5 years to get products out the door. But some neat changes going on there. This is a really neat one for me. D&B Bank is a global bank. They are bigger than Capital One and Wells Fargo combined. We think a lot of times, and I do, you know, that America is a powerhouse, and we are. But when you step out to the global stage and you really start looking at some of the volume and the horsepower, there are some amazing companies out there. But this is a really neat statement from their CFO. In today's 7x24 world, there's not enough time to go back and forth through the organization to make sure at every instant you're on the right track. We have to start figuring out how to line things up and give authority and power and control to those people that are in the best place to make the decisions. So lots of neat stuff going on up here at that level. Business agility, this is one of the ways Eliason thinks of business agility today. So most of you all, like us, have probably been in IT agility at one form or another for years. You probably have got product line of business agility going on where your business teams are handing you information. And you probably have IT at scale and maybe even product at scale. If anybody in here is a SAFe proponent, I like it for where it makes sense, but I remember years ago going to the first SAFe Summit and there was 48 of us in Boulder, Colorado. This year it's sold out and there's 4,800 people coming. I mean, it's a sold out event. So Agile at scale absolutely has a desire and a home around the globe and in many organizations. PMO, anybody an old PMOer like I was? PMI and all that type of stuff. PMOs are more important than ever before. I keep trying to find my old PMO badge and dust it off. But you can't have Agile going in a large organization without some type of structure or playbook or controls or guidelines or something. Otherwise, you've got pockets of Agile going on all over the place. And there are lots of good and bad stories about one team going one way and another team going another, and then they don't meet in the middle. So if you're going to be looking at agility at scale, you definitely want to make sure your PMO team is out there helping you create standards of best practices, being the servant leader to the organization, showcasing stuff across the company. DevOps, anybody in here DevOps? I started in 79 and 84. One of my very nice tech managers came up to me and said, Mr. McCluer, and when you're in your 20s and they use your last name, it's usually not a good thing. And he said, let's be honest, your coding skills suck. I was like, hey. And he's like, you know, you're going through your entire allotment of DASD back on Big Blue in like 2 report runs. You can't figure out how to code and structure worth the darn. So they put me in this little thing called project management where I wouldn't do harm. Well, I did a lot of harm. But one of the neat things we see is business agility now is kind of where we were back when we were just looking at Lean and Agile or prototyping or a lot of that stuff. It's in the very early stages for a lot of companies, but it's a neat way to affect change more rapidly because there's such great agility horsepower that you all have in your organizations today. The executives don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can show them how to run good Kanban boards, how to do good Agile planning, how to run great Scrum teams. And we'll show you some of that today. So lots of neat stuff going on in the C-suite, kind of the overall organizational business agility world. That's a lot of where I spend my time. Anybody in here a fan of Deming? I can't tell you how many times when I'm in the C-suite, everybody in the meeting is nodding their head on this slide. And I'm like, would you ever say that outside of this room? And they're like, oh no, we would never go downstairs and say that. Left to themselves, components become selfish, independent profit centers and thus destroy the system. So I look around and I go, that's probably part of your company, right? You've got all these siloed organizations. They're incented to do something and hand it over the edge and hand it over the edge and toss it over the wall and stuff like that. And they're compensated on making themselves as efficient as possible, but maybe not the product or the service of the company. So business agility, all of the basic lean and agile components we learned in 2001, all those years ago, still apply up at the higher levels. The nice thing is we don't have to learn anything new. We don't have to teach anything new to our executives. One of my counterparts has a great saying, we're adults, we need to have adult conversations. So sometimes it's a little kind of iffy, but we have to go, this isn't really running correctly. What would you like to do? How would you like to change? So we do a lot with this slide. Business agility, another way we think about it is organizations. Anybody in here work with a company over 500 people? 500 people, if you do a lot of the organizational study, is a tipping point where we now have us and them inside a company. It's too big, just too big. So if you work for a company over 500 people, the guidelines and the structure will really help you create lean and agility very well. Some of our customers are 500,000 employees, and they have amazing PMOs or structures or agile COEs in place. But if you think about it, it's a complex set of interdependent elements who exist in theory to support the whole. Business agility is a measure of that organization's ability to rapidly and efficiently respond to change.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
As we believe in Lean's pillars, right? Respect for people. I see on your slide human capital. Is that, just words matter.
Yes.
And people are people.
Yes.
So just curious why you would use that term.
Which term?
Which term? Human capital. Who's my audience when I think about business agility? Executives. We find a lot of times executives think about hundreds to thousands of people not as people. They don't even use the word resource. They use the word capital. Kind of interesting. They think of this as a huge investment. If you look at most companies, 60 to 80% of their overall investment are their people, are their staff. But that's a term they use, so we use some of their terms to communicate with them. But you are correct. In my world, we try not even to say resources. We say people or staff. But a good point, thank you. So, selling business agility to your executives. Why don't we have some fun, because the worst thing we can do is have a death by PowerPoint situation. So I need 13 of you to volunteer, and if you don't volunteer, I'm gonna pick on you. But can I get 13 people up on stage? And trust me, you'll have fun. And can we get the screen up a little bit? There we go. So I've done these games with CEO. I've done these games in the Pentagon in rooms that don't exist. I've done these games at Sandia National Labs in entire zip codes that don't exist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many do we have? Can I get you by chance? You can't say no. Can I get you? He came up. You've got to come up. And can I get you too? And we're good. Yeah. Every once in a while I've got to do stuff. So if I could get you 4 on this table right here, that would be good. 1, 2, 3, and I'll put you there. Because if I put you with him, we're just going to have to separate you.
It's like you know us.
See? Can I get 1, 2, 3, 4 here? So 1, 2, 3, I'll take you over here. I don't think I have to separate them. I think you all are going to be good. And can I get you 4 right here? And you are our executive. You are our director. So you get the whiteboard. There you go. All right. So on every table is a thing of coins. I had little bowls, but why have little bowls when you have a big stage? So I went back and pirated the kitchen. I got to tell you, the lady in the kitchen that doesn't speak English was a little concerned. So what I'd love for you to do, one of you needs a phone, because we need one of you on each team to be a timer. Does anybody on your team have a phone? You want to grab yours? You have a phone, you're the timer. Anybody have a phone? You're the timer, there you go. Okay, so the timer doesn't do anything but track the team's time, and then we want to count off like 1, 2, 3. So if that's the timer, why don't we make you 1, you 2. We'll make you 3, that's perfect. 1, because she's 3, so you have to be 1. And, well, no, you're the timer. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Who's the timer over here? Timer. And 1, 2, 3. So if I can get the timers behind the table and the 3 people up front, I just have to tell you the timers have the best job and the 3s in this engagement got screwed. I'm so sorry. Just telling you up front, the 3s got screwed. Okay, this is a really simple exercise. Number 1, dump the coins out on the table. You're done. Number 2, let's get a bunch of coins in here. Make sure all the coins are tails up. You're done. Number 3, then make sure all the coins are heads up, which means you have to flip every coin over to heads up. Timer, when we say go, start your time. As soon as they're done with the whole event, stop your time, and then our executive will record it and see which team was the most efficient, the most successful. There's going to be 3 runs of this exercise. Sound good? Okay, so number 1's going to dump them out. Number 2 is going to make sure they're all tails up. Number 3 is going to make sure they're all heads up. It's waterfall, it's linear. Nobody can do anything when someone else is doing something this round. Timers, are you ready? Number 1, are you ready to dump out your coins?
Ready.
Everybody good? 3, 2, 1, go. I did this in the Pentagon one time, and there was a lieutenant colonel, and we had 3 teams staged up like this. And I said, we need to be efficient, we need to get the coins out. And the lieutenant colonel did this. We spent a half an hour finding coins. They went all over the room, under the seats, all this type of stuff. So timers are running their time. Number 1 is making sure they're all, number 2 is making sure they're all tails up. Everybody else is waiting. Only one person can work at a time. Only one person can work at a time. And then number 3 will make sure they're all tails up. Someone didn't I'm shocked to hear that sometimes we don't follow the written rules of the company. That's terrible. The other thing is I'm shocked at the working conditions. Normally, anybody in here in IT? Normally our working conditions are paramount, right? I'm shocked we don't have the lighting's not that good up here. Thank God our IT shop works better than this. So again, very linear waterfall. A lot of time going on. Oh, we got one team done already. Go, don't wait, don't wait, don't wait, don't wait. Don't wait, don't wait. We got one team running, finishing up. We got a couple other teams going. Oh, we got more lights. The facilities god, everybody, thank you to facilities.
And luckily, I've created a spreadsheet.
Oh, yes, yeah. And the executive is already coming up with metrics that matter. These are the appropriate KPIs that you will be judged against for today's event. Whenever you're done, stop your time. While they're working too, can I say hello to a couple of my better counterparts? Ryan Jackson, everybody. Ryan is the Central Region Agile Business Development Executive. We all work for Ryan, I do. And then Andy here is our local guy that runs our local office. So hello to those guys while we're finishing. As soon as you're done, record your time. And then if we can go, we'll make you table number 1. What was your time for the first exercise?
1:57.
1 minute, 57 seconds for team 1. Team 2, what was your exercise?
1 minute, 39 seconds.
1 minute, 39 seconds in team 3.
We got docked for cheating.
We got what?
Yeah, got docked.
What was your time?
2 minutes, 16 seconds.
Ouch, ouch. 2 minutes, 16 seconds. Mr. Executive, who won?
Fairly easy. That was Center Team 2.
Team 2, a couple of almond joys. Yay for team 2. Coins go back in the bucket. I don't usually get to say the word bucket in my presentation. I'm happy. It's usually cup. Coins go back in the bucket, and we're going to do it again. Mr. Executive, were you happy with that? Would you like maybe a little bit more oomph performance?
There's certainly a lot of variability, so predictability would be better.
Predictability. God, if I had $20, I'd hand it to you. That's a word in my presentation. Okay, you have 3 teams, 4 people per team. What I would love is take 15 or 20 seconds, talk amongst yourself. You have to pour the coins out. You have to get them all tails up first. When and only when they're all tails up, then you have to get them all heads up. But the 4 of you can do whatever you want to do to make that happen. There are no rules. So the 4 of you dump the coins out, make them all tails up. Once you know that they're all tails up, make them all heads up. But you 4 can do it however you want to do it. Sound good? Take about 15 seconds, talk amongst yourselves, and we'll run another iteration. Right now we need like the Jeopardy theme song, right? Do, 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 do. Everybody bow to the AV God. Bow to the AV God. I tell you, man, I do a lot of conferences. This place is going to be hard to beat. The only good thing I saw a couple of years ago, I was in Vegas, and we were at the old MGM, and the guy got confused, so I'm setting up, and the guy comes in with about 5 or 6 waiters and waitresses, and he goes, "We're going to be working the room," and I said, "Okay." And I said, "What are y'all doing?" He said, "Well, we're taking drink orders," and I'm like, "Love that." So I had a 45-minute event that went on for an hour and a half because what the guy said is if you're sitting here, you could have free drinks. Nobody left. It was my best event ever. I don't think anybody remembered the slides. All right, guys, are we ready? Let's get going. So timers, remember, just start your timer when you get started. Stop your timer when you do it. Whatever you 4 want to do, just remember we got to get all the coins tails up first as a group. Once they're all tails up, you can make them all heads up. Sound good? 3, 2, 1, go. Now we need another theme song. Wide open, whatever you think is calling you. I'm a little nervous. I'm expecting some Def Leppard, maybe some Ozzy Osbourne. I usually play Crazy Train at this part of the event, but whatever he's got queued up. It's like we're telepathic. All right, as soon as you're done, just make sure you record your time. One team going. You can't imagine how much fun you have with executives or with DOD or military personnel when you get to do this type of stuff. By the way, if I do this on site with executives, we don't use candy bars. We use $20 or $100 bills. You can't imagine the competition. I've got guys like pushing each other off the table or all this type of stuff. It's kind of crazy. Are we done? Everybody done? If we can start backwards, team 3, what was your time?
54:13.
54:13. How about team 2?
39 seconds.
39 seconds. And team 1?
19 seconds.
19 seconds. Woo, smoking. Okay, if you can put the coins back in the cup. So this is kind of 4x, right? That's almost a, so can you do a 4x there? This is kind of 3.5-ish, right? So if you can just put a, yeah, 3. That's about a 40, 80, 120. That's about a 3x as well. And then, what's that?
That's dramatic.
They're smoking. That's a 6.
120, that's almost 8x, 7x, 8x.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like team 1 gets the, if you haven't had them yet, they're amazing, the Kit Kat dark chocolate. I'm telling you, this stuff's really dangerous. Good, thank you guys, thank you, thank you.
We have a question for the executive.
Yes.
Were you supposed to make sure all 4 of the people actually flipped over to tails first, then start to flip the heads, or was that not really a requirement?
No, the instructions were that they all had to be one face and then the other.
Yes.
So the timing sounded important from requirements.
Yes, there was still this leftover legacy kind of like, I know how you need to do it and you need to do it, you know, kind of my way. So there was a little bit of leftover SDLC in there, et cetera. Okay, third round, money round. So in this round, all the customer wants is 10 coins, heads up, just in a separate pile. Doesn't have to be a vertical pile or anything. They will go with 10 coins just kind of heads up in a pile. We don't need to flip stuff. They don't care about all the stuff we do in the middle. Just they'll give us money if we get 10 coins in a separate pile. Sound good? Talk amongst your, yeah.
10 coins total?
10 coins, well, they just want, put 10 coins in a separate pile and call done, separate from the herd.
Per person or any of that kind of
Yeah, 10 coins total. Very good question. I love the communication collaboration. Talk amongst yourselves for a second and we'll get started. We're going to have to go on the road. I'll never be able to do this again without you, right? I now have a severe codependency issue.
Sound like it, no line?
Doesn't need to be a line, just 10 coins separated from the herd. Okay, everybody ready? Timers, remember we want you to run your time, okay? Timers, are you ready? Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, whenever you're done, stop your time. What music do we have? Oh, very nice. Very nice. I'm thinking he does weddings and bar mitzvahs on the weekend, right? He's working the crowd. He's kind of feeling the room out, trying to get all the way up. All right. So, team 2, we never started with you. Team 2, what was your time?
We had 5 seconds.
Woo! 5 seconds for team 2. Team 1, are you 3? You're 3. What was your time?
9 seconds.
9 seconds. Woo, smoking. And how about you all, team 1?
9 seconds.
9 seconds as well. Woo. And can you do the multiplier of what is, X 9 into 2 minutes and 22 seconds and however that works out? Isn't it nice to make the executives work? So I think we've got York peppermint patties for everybody because everybody's getting the sensation there. I also have a leftover almond joy. I maybe didn't give you all enough almond joys. And then if you could put the coins back in the cup, and you are done. Everybody, a big round of applause for all the volunteers. Yay.
No candy for the executive?
Yeah. The executive got the delivery. Could we do the slides again? Do you need me to move the tables probably? Maybe? Yeah, if we don't mind, move the tables back. Fantastic. I don't want to break anything. Yeah. I don't want to be that guy that takes out the projector. One for you as well. Thank you. Everybody around for the executive. When was the last time you saw executive work in a meeting? Right there. Proof. So the amazing thing in our world is we did very linear, which is follow the process. Let's see if this works. Nope. And then we did lean, which is we just said, if you were going to make your part of the organization a little bit better, what would that look like? And then we said, what about agile if you did a small run and we have different iterations? I think this one we had you do it in a stack. So what is the magic of an executive? An executive exists to create things more efficient, right? And let's be honest, if they're under like 52 years old, they still have 1 or 2 rounds in them. They want to have some dramatic results and they want to get promoted or they want to move on to another company, right? They're very looking for stuff. The world of an executive that they live for, if you read any executive training or MBA stuff, is you want to get a 4x or 10x improvement out of your teams or your treasure that the company assigned to you, your portfolio. We blew that out of the water. We got a 3x just getting started. One team got an 8x. I think there might be some issues with allocation of work distribution there, but we'll go with it. But every team kicked it way above a 10x when they decided to incorporate Lean and Agile together. So when I sit around with a bunch of B or C-suite executives, I go, how would you like to cut 20 to 40% off your bottom line? Not just IT, not just marketing, the whole company. Under Armour has 15,000 employees globally. It's a great company, great product. You can't imagine their interest when we started talking about that. What if you could cut 20% off? What if you could make yourself more efficient? Chick-fil-A, we just landed Chick-fil-A. We are being paid in sauce, and I'm good with that. If you've ever had the Chick-fil-A sauce, it's dangerous. But Chick-fil-A is doing some great stuff with us. On and on and on. Anybody have a mortgage? Anybody ever bought a home in here? You're in a database I worked with once, I'm sorry. I didn't mess it up, I promise. But Fannie Mae, a little company called Fannie Mae, very few companies we can talk about publicly. Fannie Mae, 97% of all software development is Agile. Fannie Mae did the Agile 2017 presentation, if any of you all were down in Georgia. Fannie Mae can show you empirically they've saved over $400 million over the last 3 years. And their journey is just getting started. It's amazing. If you ever want to see a Disney World on steroids, Lean and Agile organization, Fannie Mae can do it. We coordinate tours to all of our EEs so Ryan can actually get you a tour. Fannie Mae does tours where you come in for the day, you meet with Fannie Mae employees, DevOps folks, IT folks, business folks, et cetera. But it's an amazing tour. And it's an extremely highly regulated financial, Congress regulated environment, and their success is off the charts. So if you want to look at some of this stuff on steroids, there's some neat things we can connect you to. The other neat thing that we saw going on is if you watch the teams, did you see the teams evolve very quickly, right? In the beginning, they were kind of standoffish. Second round, they ran. Third round, they're high-fiving each other. People love to do great things. If you can set up Lean and Agile to be open to your organization, the money and the horsepower, the way your company can go Lean and Agile is already inside your company. The magic are your people. The magic is your staff. Because they know what they need to do to modify that little piece of their organization. The PMO are the guides, the servant leaders that kind of say, let's move this one this way and this one that way, and you all wait a couple of months because these guys are going first. But they can ride overarching success and guidelines for everybody. So a lot of people have seen this slide. I don't do it here, but in Europe, we actually put people on wheels, which is kind of crazy to me because they don't have the insurance laws in Europe that they have in America. But we put a bunch of executives on a hill with a bunch of scooters, and like 2 of them came back with road rash, and they were laughing. And I'm like, in America, you'd be suing us. But we did a thing in Europe where like you have to run 2 blocks, and these poor executives, I thought a couple of them, like me, are trying to get in our bikini weight. So they were struggling to run 2 blocks. And we didn't give them skateboards, but we gave them scooters. But these guys and ladies are just howling, laughing, running a scooter. And then we gave them bicycles. We did not give them those. But the idea is you don't have to wait for the big release. Agile doesn't have to be a 5-year thing. You can start implementing Lean and Agile and have dramatic success within the first 6 months. Most of the times when we hit a company, we say, if you turn us loose and you want to go business agility, we'll have you 12 to 15% savings across your bottom line within the first year. Big numbers if you're a big company, big numbers. Everything we do, everything you should be doing is structured inside the company. If you're bringing in 200-300 consultants, it's not going to work because it's not becoming part of your company's DNA and muscle memory. It's just something you've outsourced. Yes, sir.
So you just offered them something that's irresistible. What are you asking from them?
We're just asking for them to think Lean and Agile and go along with us.
Use the word just.
Yep, just. So, anybody heard of the frozen middle? There's a lot of concerns around culture in the frozen middle. I swear you've sat through my conversation here. So let's do the second agility exercise. I don't do this with everybody, but could I get, let's pick on team 1 because they smoked everybody else. Could we get team 1 back up on the stage? Real quick. Whoever was on team 1. And who was our timer on team 1? In this exercise, the timer gets screwed. I'm sorry. So if you could run over there to the whiteboard, you all 4, I'm sorry, can run over to the whiteboard. Make a chart that looks like this real quick. So it's just a gridded chart. It's got a capital 1, the word O-N-E, a lowercase a, and a Roman numeral 1. So we're going to have blanks A through 8. So just draw yourself a grid real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 down and 4 across. And give yourself room just to write in the grid. So I'd do the whole board if you want. Just give yourself a little bit more room. And then just give yourself 8 horizontals. Yeah, 1, 2, 1 more, perfect. And then 8 horizontals. Ooh, cutting it in the middle, very nice. Okay, anybody have a phone from last round? I know he was our timer last time. Do you have a phone by chance? We'll put the executive to work again. Oh, you've got a phone. Can you hand it off to her because you're working? There we go. So you want to do the same thing. You want to run a timer just like last time. So can you put on the top a capital A, a capital O-N-E, a lowercase a, and a Roman numeral I? Roman numeral 1. Yep. Lowercase a and a Roman numeral 1. So you would actually put the things across the top and the bottom if you want. Down in the very bottom, put a capital H. Okay. So now what I want you to do, when she says go, you're going to fill the chart in horizontally, left to right. Sound good? Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Any music?
Fill with what?
What?
Fill with the same.
A to B to.
You would do B, capital T-W-O, lowercase b, Roman numeral 2, capital C,
Okay.
T-H-R-E. Yep. Good question. Thank God we don't ever have issues where the requirements aren't that clear from the business what they want. Any music calling you? Now I'm like looking forward to this. Love it. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. I'm going to have to make a playlist to take with me. This is actually pretty good. When I've got a different room set up, we've got the executives back up, of course, and the 3 teams are working. Normally, when the first game I do chocolate. The second game, what I do is I hand the teams $60 each, either in 5s, 10s, or 20s, and I say there are 3 rounds, and every time you win a round, you make money, and every time you lose a round, you have to pay the other team. You lose money, because that's what happens in business, right? We either get out to market or we don't get out to our competition gets in front of us, we don't, or whatever. It gets brutal, these type of things. And whenever you're done, stop the time. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Woo, brutal.
1 minute.
Okay, so if you can just write that up in the left-hand corner by T4, 1 minute and whatever time it was. And then you've got an eraser, if you don't mind, just leave the grid and the first line in the H and erase everything else. So you can just erase all the stuff you wrote, but leave the grid. So how many of you all are on more than one project at a time at your company? Anybody doing more than one thing? Anybody doing, let's say, more than 5 projects at once? 5 meetings, 5 deliverables, 5 things at once, or whatever. There's an amazing study out there in the world. If you look at Gartner and a lot of folks, if you're juggling over 3 projects at a time, you have a dramatic reduction in throughput. Just 3. Most of the folks we see are dealing with many, many things at once. So multitasking or switching is what this game is kind of showing, and the executives will go, well, we have to multitask because the people are bored. Why are they bored? Well, there's a waterfall process and they're all waiting. I'm like, why don't you change the process so they could work faster? Oh, we never thought about that. Business agility. So now what we'd like you to do is the same grid again, but vertical. And you can put the H down on the bottom if you want, just so you were kind of the same thing as latch time. But all you want to do now is go vertical instead of horizontal. Are we ready with time? Sound good? 3, 2, 1, go. Very nice. I love the fact, too, I didn't tell him how to do the grid, and you'll notice he didn't do the grid left to right. 90% of the time, people do not do the grid left to right because that's not the way our brain works. Whenever you're done, stop your time. 28 seconds. Smoking, smoking. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. You can sit down. Thank you. Everybody, big round of applause. Yay. So that, you said 28, 38, yeah. 28. 28 is almost a 50% throughput increase as well. So our whole goal when we created this at the request of a couple of executives at a very large organization was, how do we get our executives interested in agility? How do we get them thinking this way? So these events were created back in 2012. I probably run this game more times than I can imagine, thousands. Conferences like this, mostly inside companies where we're getting executives to think about why wouldn't they want to think about Agile at a different level. But the benefit is just how can you go faster? So these are the foundations of the pillars that Eliason likes when we think about Agile at scale. Do you have alignment across the organization? Do you have transparency on what it takes to do your work? Do you have balance? Are your people working about 40 hours a week? And do you have ownership? Do people know where they can affect change or increase value delivery at their part of the organization? ATBO equals S. You get all these slides, by the way. If you go out through the conference, all of these are yours. This is the money slide a lot of executives, again, we talk about. I say you could have a 25 to 50% increase in employee engagement. And the executives just played the coin game. I said, you yourselves got excited. Your natural tendency to do something better, to achieve success, just came out in the coin game. You can cut your time to market 50 to 75%. You can get your 4x to 10x improvement just by the way you think about changing delivery. And Lean and Agile principles for a team of 7 work for teams of hundreds of thousands. You need some structure. You need some guidance, whether it's SAFe or Scrum at Scale or something or whatever. You need to put some structure so that the teams know how to run so they're not colliding with each other. But there are phenomenal success stories out now. None of us have to repeat this. The SAFe website has success stories out of every vertical industry you can imagine of Agile at scale and savings at scale. 200 to 400% increase in productivity and satisfaction to delivering a higher, more consistent quality of product, service, or client's priceless. So now I'm having these, I got 5 or 10 executives in a room. I said, every one of you all has a KPI based on EBITDA and how you're driving the company and how you're engaging the company to have it be more successful, right? Do you have any EBITDAs around a 4x improvement? And they go, yes. And I said, when was the last time you hit it? Honestly, usually never. It's a stretch goal for them. I'm like, what if you could hit that next year? How much money would that mean to your group as far as the savings, but how much money would that mean to you personally in your compensation? Their numbers are usually pretty large. So we have all of a sudden magical interest about if you could set up things and turn teams loose inside your organization, let your PMO run as a lean and agile organization. Let IT do what it's been trying to do, which is take agile up and out across the organization. Everyone in the company wins and you all win, compensation changes. So we do a little bit about this. This is their world, cost of goods and ROI. Never give the guy the clicker. But what we say is you've been given a certain amount of treasure, people, dollars, and resources, time, dollars, and resources. Resources is people, although they say resources. How do you want to make that investment to get the highest return on investment? And Lean and Agile can make that big for you. So this is another money slide. This was created again in 2012 in the Pentagon, believe it or not, by a really neat gentleman, DOD guy, Dr. McGee. And we came up with average loaded hourly rate. It's not the chargeback rate in the company, it's the base rate. So in Columbus, because we staff a lot of people around the globe, the base loaded rate for a staff member and employee is $105 an hour. That's your hourly pay, that's a company's part of your healthcare, that's a company's part of your 401k, but we add in the magic of, the only reason we have these beautiful buildings is to house people. So what's your part of the building lease, what's your part of the utilities, what's your part of shared services, et cetera, et cetera. In Austin, Texas, it's 115, in Northern Virginia, it's 128, and we factor with Amazon coming in with 35,000 new jobs. It's crazy. In Northern Virginia, this is going to go up to about 150 an hour. So if I have a team of 7 people, just one little agile team, they're burning about $735 an hour or about $1.4 million a year. So a team in Columbus of 7 people is costing a company all in about $1.4 million a year. It gets rid of the whole chargeback, the funny rate. It exposes all the true numbers. Hundreds of our customers use this. It's a neat little formula. So what if a 7-member team could streamline their workflows by just 4 hours a week? They'd save roughly $3,000 a week or $141,000 a year, X dollars a month. Now we're talking real numbers. Wait a minute, if I can just make this company that much more efficient, I can show you a true cost savings. You've just refinanced your cost of goods. What would you like to do with that? Would you like to get into some of the technical debt or the cross-training you've never been able to do as an organization? Would you like to look at new things? What if I had a team of 90 people? So a lot of times when we think about departments are roughly about 90 to 150 people before they start to break them up. So what if I had a department of 90 people? That's running about 9,000 an hour, about 18 million a year, all in. Again, what if they just saved 4 hours a week? Nothing dramatic. That's a savings of like 1.8 million a year. These are real numbers. So many of our customers track this type of stuff. You can track it inside your company. You can show it. It's real simple. It's not meant to be a good or bad. It's just a data point that you can use to show what if we could become more agile. Now, that's just 4 hours, which is roughly 10% out of a work week, right? 4 into 40. A lot of you all were getting a lot higher than 10% when you started doing Lean and Agile. So now I got my executives in the room madly writing notes going, what if I could make the company more efficient? And I go, you could probably see 20% improvement across the board within your first 12 months if you structure things at scale through your PMO. Using the previous example, what if a 90-person team could streamline by 25%? You're saving 4.5 million a year. Simple math, nothing crazy. They just saw how to do it, and now they're seeing how to track it and how to account for it. Organizations use business agility to better understand and map and streamline their delivery pipelines. There's SDLC, my old friend. I don't even talk about 7-layer model anymore. Anybody in here not know what the 7-layer model is? So many people. I'm on the West Coast, nobody raises their hand. It's crazy. Organizations use their enhanced agility to improve speed, quality, team morale, success matrix. All of this is Lean and Agile, value stream mapping, all the stuff we've seen in IT agility, just applied towards a business model. Any questions on those slides? I'm going to close you out and get us out of here early because I love ending early. Yes, sir, sorry.
So we're working a 40-hour week. We're not going to start working 36 hours and pay out less.
Yes.
So where are you truly measuring that increase? Because we can make $1,000 for 40 hours.
Yes.
We'll always do 40 hours, but we're just doing different work.
Very good question.
How are you finding that increase in
Very good question. All we're doing in the beginning is you just produce the same amount of output as a team in a little bit less time. You're not going home early. You're not clocking out early. What would you like to do with that extra time? And so that's how we track the savings. What would you like to do? If your team could get to where they're able to get the original output out, let's say in 50% of the time, you've just cut your cost of goods by 50%. What would you like to do? We highly recommend teams track their time because then teams can justify, we want to do technical investment, technical debt. We want to put in that whole virtual environment that we've been thinking about so that we can have dev and test and systems integration, true mirrors of production, because maybe right now we don't. Well, you never could afford that in the past. You never could justify that investment. Now you can, because you can show the math. So it's more about what would you like to do with that savings, but you're right, you don't go home early.
Are you doing it delivery points or lines of code, or how are you measuring the productivity?
Productivity to us is just output. Delivery points and lines of codes are phenomenal. Executives' eyes glaze over when I talk that way. So we spent about 3 years learning how to not speak the world we speak so that we could communicate with executives so they wouldn't shut us down in 15 minutes going, I don't even know what you're saying. All I know is your budget too high. So we find when we get executives excited about Lean and Agile and they have skin in the game, they're now much more open to say, all right, I see you've got a couple of your teams running very well. I'm interested in taking this up and across the organization. How would we do it? So this whole presentation and this whole focus is how do we connect with our executives and get them excited about it and show them there is a true path to agility. There is a true path to cutting our cost of goods, increasing ROI, and then what we as a company would like to do with that. Just as you said, you're not going home early. What else do we want to do? Fannie Mae runs a 75-25 model. So 75% of their team's treasure every sprint goes to new business. 25% of the team's treasure, if you go on the Fannie Mae tour, it's mind-blowing, goes to the team. What would the team like to do with 25% of their time across 10 days to improve their world? Code coverage and automation at Fannie Mae, which didn't exist in January 2016, is over 70%. They have entire mirror environments now, so that they have mirrors at the branch level that mirror production. All of that they've created over the last couple of years. All of that was possible by tracking and showing how they cut the cost of goods. But more importantly, where do we want to invest that treasure now? Where do we want to invest those time, dollars, and resources? So good questions. Anybody seen the 6 levels, the 5 levels of planning by Hubert? This is a great thing. The one last thing I'll show you real quick, we added big board planning in here. This is a really fun event. If you think the executives are excited about this, we do big room planning, big board planning. It's a hoot. It's just crazy. So everybody's seen a Kanban board. The idea of a Kanban board is cards you can see. We're trying to kind of figure stuff out, and you can use different layers, open, build, test, deploy. You can use different things. Every Scrum board or Kanban board is customized however you want it. And then you can kind of set up your work in progress limits or your WIP limits, you know, infinity for the to-do list, and maybe I can only have so much open and done. So many executives have never seen anything like this. They've seen it on a PowerPoint, but they've never lived it. They've never created it. They've never talked about WIP limits. They've never really gotten into it. So we said, what if you could make the invisible visible? What if you could see and plan at a team, group, line of business, organizational level? And that's where big board planning, delivery pipeline mapping came in. This happens to be Chick-fil-A in February. And so they have one group of about 110 people, and they said, we want to plan out the next 2 years. If you haven't heard, Chick-fil-A is going international. They expect it to be 4 times the volume of the business they're doing domestically. Mind-blowing. Chick-fil-A has a venture going on with lots of neat different partners and different things they're looking at. So their world just went complicated by like a factor of 3, in a very good way, because of all their success. So this is a very simple room. We've got all the different vertical teams set up with green lined. We've got Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Q1 is a little bit smaller, as you can imagine, because there wasn't that much left in the quarter. We got people together. There was no training involved. Nobody went to training. There's not a Lean Agile term mentioned. And we said, we're going to give you green, yellow, and red cards, and there's a little bit of data we kind of staged on the cards, questions for you to answer. And we want you to put all your projects or all your deliverables up on the wall. You know, just show us what your world looks like. Every team put up their stuff. This sequence is out of things. So the teams put up what they were looking for. We had them divide the walls. What are business commitments? What are internal technical commitments? And then what we did is we said, look around the room and kind of negotiate with each other, because if your team has this on their schedule, does anybody else in the room have that part of their deliverable on your schedule as well? It just got real. So that event started out with about 4,000 pieces of paper in a room, a little bit bigger than this. Everybody got 15 feet of wall space. About 4 hours in, we had less than 1,800 pieces of paper on the wall. Because you had so many teams, they were going like, you're doing that launch? Yeah, it's not on my schedule. I don't have the resources for it. I don't have the people for it. And they're like, no, it's green. We've been saying it's on budget, it's on track. Gantt charts are beautiful. But if you don't have the other team with the companion work up on the wall, how do we know it's going to get done? So it's just team planning, Scrum planning, Kanban planning on steroids. Nothing, if you're an Agile coach, we haven't done before. But teams planned across a 12-month horizon. They adjusted their silos. They looked at, some teams collapsed into a single board because they were tired of mapping dependency. There's organizational alignment. Value stream mapping happened real time. I haven't said a word to them about this stuff, but they're automatically kind of collapsing stuff because they don't want to do companion cards across both groups. We had the executives again. We had the 3 executives in the room, and we said, Chick-fil-A is chicken, if you can imagine. So their enablers are their chickens, and their things that are blocking them or holding them back from being agile is their beef. And of course, I'm mic'd up in Chick-fil-A, and I said, where's the beef? And everybody went, oh, because that wasn't a Chick-fil-A phrase. So I lost brownie points on that one. But what we did in the beginning of the day, we said, we want 3 enablers and 3 challenges from everybody in the room. They put up a bunch of stuff. We told the executives, go away. come up with major themes, and then we're going to dot vote on what we should do. We did that to get the executives out of the room, give them something to do, but also to kind of have them feeling like they're running things right. The executives had gone through this presentation the week before just to get them excited about Lean and Agile, but it worked out really well. Again, so the teams did a bunch of mapping, they collapsed everything looked good. This happens to be another customer that did this work. Anybody have a kid going to college? I have 2 going in this fall. There's a GoFundMe page if you're feeling like you need it. This happens to be College Board. They create the ACTs and the SATs. This was a while back, and they did some annual planning, and the beautiful thing was we went out afterwards, and one guy was going home, and he took a picture. This, in their world, was College Board declaring to the world, this is up on the 10th floor of their building, what we're going to be focusing on next year. And it's amazing stuff that College Board has going. So they did big board planning at a company level, and that was that. This happens to be another customer, but when you go through and you stand inside your world, your Gantt charts and your connections and everything, your executives and all your teams can help you plan very quickly and decide how you want to start Lean and Agile at steroids across the company. Not one team, but how you want to go across. And it also drives the concept of WIP limits and value and all that type of stuff, because you put all the stuff on the walls, and if you ask everybody in the room, you're like, what are your thoughts? And the primary thought we hear from folks is overwhelming. There's too much here. There's no way we'll ever get all of this done. We don't use red cards anymore. This was from 2016. We now use green, yellow, white, and pink cards. And one of our clients a couple of years ago said, red has some bad connotations. No one ever wants to admit they're really red, they're really behind. So pink are the Pepto-Bismol cards. What gives you heartburn? What keeps you up at night? People love the pink cards. And teams are throwing them down on each other like water. They're walking up to their board going, that's not a green, it's a pink. I'm making you a pink because my team's not aware of it, or we don't have the resources or the environments to test for it or whatever. So these things are a lot of fun. There's a bunch of stuff we can give you after today. It's all free. If you ever want any of this, you can reach out to Ryan or Andy, but we have write-ups on all this stuff. We have directions on how you run it internally. But these are a lot of fun, and they drive business agility and business awareness, and the 3 C's, conversation, collaboration, and commitment, if you remember user story planning, at group levels, up at steroid levels. Our largest event was 3,000 people to date, and we think we'll have a bigger one. But they work really well if you've got teams of 80 to 100 folks. So that was a lot to cover in a short period of time. Thank you again to our volunteers. I'd love to stop and see any questions from the room, like would it work in my environment? Anybody? It's not church. Yes?
So any thoughts on an organization that may have put a lot of this into practice, but is kind of, I wouldn't say maybe, but sort of plateaued in their development?
Yes.
Any like adrenaline shot for the continuous improvement? How do you do that?
These we find are kind of fun if you get everybody together and you do a big board planning. The games are a lot of fun. Most companies will allow you to do it. I can't do it in the government. For some reason, handing government officials money is a no-no. I didn't know that. I got in trouble. They actually had to give it back. But we say, you know, come up with prizes, come up with stuff with the team. So a lot of times we'll work with the company going, what are the things people love? It's Jeans Friday, it's a day off from work, it's that employee parking for the month up at the front door or whatever. So we'll do some of these events and we'll make some stuff fun to get it going. We say if you're gonna do this type of stuff, you should have a Kanban board somewhere inside the company, very visible. Hey, this is our Agile transformation plan. Here's our backlog. Here's what we're doing as a company. If it's inside Jira, God bless you, nobody reads it. It's gotta be something up on the walls. That type of stuff I can't show you because it's proprietary, but Chick-fil-A has an Agile transformation wall that is 40 feet long and 14 feet high. And we said, you can't run 14 feet because you can't reach it. And the guy looked at me and said, we're Chick-fil-A. We've ordered 2 ladders that run on the rails back and forth, like the old library ladders from Harry Potter. And I was like, oh, I want to ride on one of those. And he's like, that's the reason you won't be on one of the ladders. But they actually have a board in their headquarters in Atlanta where they said, here's where we are. And we have too much to do. We're outrageously successful. And here's where we want to go. And they have people that are constantly reworking the board. but the whole company can see it. And that's a lot of magic when you have that transparency and balance up on a wall. We're not just doing IT, we're not just doing this application. Here's what we're doing to make the company better for all of us. If I get into organizational consulting, which is only about 5% of what I do, I look at an executive and I scare the crap out of him and I said, convert the company to employee owned. Give everybody the power to say, if I increase the company 5, 10, 20%, some of that comes back to me in kind, in equity, in deferred stock, whatever. You know, you don't have to like just start handing people big paychecks, but if you really want to turn a company loose on steroids, make it employee owned. Eliason has offices all over the world, and I can tell you that is sweeping across the country. There's a whole nother conversation about millennials, but the number one thing millennials ask when we go to place people, Eliason moves about 100 people a month into a new role. We're very small. Some of the big ones move 1,000 people a month. But one of the number one things we hear from people under 28 is, what's the purpose? How do I add value? And is there shared equity? And I can't tell you how many times I'm looking at this kid going, it's $140,000 a year. This is a great job for you. Been out of college 2 years. And they're like, there's no equity. There's no value. The world's a big place. I'm going to keep going. Different from the way I started, you know, a long time ago when I was like, you're hiring me? Yes. Whole different world now. So a lot of companies we see are shifting because they're having trouble getting employees. So they're having to rethink the way they hire and the way they structure their organizations and their comp plans. Yes.
Just to go back and revisit my previous comment, so I hear you talking some principle, but a lot of practice.
Yes.
Talk to me about how you're balancing that, because everything I've ever experienced, you're talking about experience, practices fail because people don't understand what's actually behind them. They're just mimicking things. They're seeing it on videos on YouTube. They're doing what you tell them to do.
They're doing the agile being, not the agile doing, not the agile being. So I think it's here. Yep. So those two slides I talked about, alignment, transparency, balance, and ownership, and what are the true metrics we're trying to perceive, not code coverage or whatever. We put those up when a company is working with us to do business agility. And we say, your metrics, your values should be really high. If we've got a really great persona, it's we're trying to deliver more value for neat customers. A lot of companies have amazing customer stories. I mean, they'll make you cry when you think about the way they serve their customers and the value. They're life-changing for some of their customers. Other companies just say, we would like to be able to deliver higher quality of products and services at a lower price point. So more customers maybe can derive value from our product and service. That's a big thing sweeping the healthcare industry right now, is how do we lower our cost, et cetera. We find if you put too much structure up front when you're talking business agility, people fall asleep. If you get running pretty quickly and they're achieving success and they're tracking their simple metrics, their 4X, their 10X, we saved this much money, they can wrap their head around that. They establish success very quickly and it expands through the company. Agile only works if it kind of is grown inside your organization and it catches hold very quickly, especially at the business agility level. I was one of those terrible guys in the 80s that walked in from a 3-letter company with a bunch of binders and said, you have no idea what you're doing. We do. And those never worked. They still don't work. So this is about just getting you started and getting you excited. Exactly what we've been doing with Lean and Agile teams, just on steroids at a business level. Yes, sir.
In one of your slides, I think the premise was an all-in cost of the team, right? I don't know, like earlier.
Do you remember which slide it was?
It was around this time, the saving of the team. So if it's an all-in cost, how are you selling leadership on that might be have to live to a capital versus expense?
This?
But yeah. So how do you get leaders to change their mindset? Or how do you get companies to change? You know, you have so much capital work, so much expense work. How do you get them to be just a bucket of money?
Yep. That normally takes about 2 years. When you get into how we're going to finance or fund groups or stuff, that's a pretty mature comment. So right now, I'm not trying to change the way they finance a group or anything. I'm just trying to say, you've exposed some additional horsepower or some cost savings in this group very easily. We haven't turn the apple cart upside down. What would you like to do with it? And because they are siloed, they can't spread it around the company. So normally what happens is the different groups start improving the chains. IT starts improving IT, DevOps start improving DevOps, but they can't share that at the moment across the company. So naturally what happens then is we put pressure on the system. And then over time people start going, well, this group is running at, 15, 25% of their original cost of goods. They're doing all this great stuff. What if we could enable that across the company and we got into financial value stream mapping? You'll see some of this in 4X. We actually had these conversations. Dean's, if you haven't ever had the chance to listen to Dean Leffingwell, he's phenomenal. But Dean worked with us back in 2012 in a DoD environment. And Dean had some amazing observations. Some of this stuff was, certainly in those days, ahead of its time, right? People were like, I don't even trust Lean and Agile, so I'm not going to talk about business agility or changing the way organizations finance or think about people, right? I have a round peg and a round hole, and this is all you do, and you don't come up and out and across. So it's really neat. If you look at SAFE over the years, a lot of what we worked with back in those days is now appearing in SAFE 4X and 4.5. So a lot of companies are getting excited about this. This particular focus is how to quickly, within 90 minutes, to get a couple of executives excited about thinking about Lean and Agile and tide their company outside of IT. And I'll do 40 of these a year. And there's a bunch of us in my company, and we're certainly not the only organization. But we exist to light a fire in the C-suite, to get people excited about, look at what your IT teams are doing, look at what some of your other teams are doing. Think about it at a higher level. There's a lot of magic that can happen very quickly. And we design the games, there's a couple of others, but we design the games so they have hands-on experience, hands-on success. And we say, what if you just turn that loose in your company? Not chaos, don't turn the company loose. Set up your PMO and start running some structured stuff. And it's pretty hard to say no to cutting your cost of goods 20 to 40%. Yes, sir.
So once you get that executive buy-in, what's the process or advice for getting buy-in throughout the company if you're receiving pushback at the team level or what have you?
If I've got I think your question is, if I've got executive buy-in, how do I move buy-in across the company? Yeah, the frozen middle, as we call it. A lot of people have been brought up to a company. They put kids through college based on the way we've always done things, right? So you're coming in and saying, we're going to change stuff up. Ooh, that's the number one cultural impediment to any organization is middle management, when you think about lasting change, et cetera. Normally we go down to them, now you get down inside the stuff and we start mapping organizational paths, change paths. Let's say you're a very senior developer or engineer that 5 or 10 years ago shift into a management role. Would you like to get back into a senior developer role? Would you like to move into an architect role? You can still be a team manager if you think of the Spotify model. We've got tribes and all types of great stuff. But you no longer have to manage them day to day. You no longer have to tell them what to do. And when you get a couple of folks inside a room with a lot of people around you, I'm like, do you like managing people all day long? Do you like 50 people coming to you? Do you like the fact you're in meetings 7 hours a day and you never get to work? And like, yeah, I don't. And I say, well, what if you could chart a different path? What if there are different things you can do? What if you could get back to doing the part of the job you love, not the part of the job you have to do? So it takes time, but especially I can't sell it enough. There are very few companies in the world that will show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. The Fannie Mae tour is mind-blowing because business people talk to business people, tech managers talk to tech managers, QA to QA, and you will be amazed at how happy those folks are and how much they know that they have made a difference to not only the company and their peers, but the people they serve. Good question. We are coming up on the end of time. I really wanted to let you guys go early. We didn't make it that far, but I'm around next couple of days. Thank you so much. These slides are available through the conference. We'll figure out how, and I hope you have a great couple of days. Thank you.